Welcome, class, to the Intro to Java Programming. In this lesson, we'll review local date versus date along with the date parsing and formatting. The information given in today's lesson is by no means complete, but will give you a foundation to work from and provide some good working examples. It is up to you to continue to research uses and features of existing data types along with discovering new data types. Date data types are used to hold dates and times. A date can be broken down into year, month, and day. Time can be broken down into hour, minute, second, and millisecond. We will review some classes used to hold the date data type. Let's go to our basics project in IntelliJ and close any open tabs. Let's navigate to the data type package. Let's create a new class called date test. Let's make some room. Import this class. So here is a test that will create a local date and set a year, month, and day. The value will be printed. With one line of code, a date can be set. Here is the syntax for setting a local date value. Here are two more tests that will create a local time and a local date time. Again, there is only one line of code to create a time or a date and time. Let's run each test to print the result. The local date class is a newer version of the date class starting with Java version 8 and higher. Here's a test that will create a date class and set a year, month, and day. You should quickly notice 7 lines of code are needed to create the date variable. The level of complexity is higher with the required need for a simple date format and a try-catch block. I will cover the try-catch block in more detail in a future lesson. Let's run this test to print the result. Notice the output of the date below. This test will show how to set the time only. Notice the output of the time below. And here is a test that will show how to set a date and time. Let's run this test and notice the output. Notice the output always contains a date and a time, regardless of the input. Using local date and local time create just the date or the time requested. This is one of several subtle differences between these two date classes. Local date and date are just two of several date options available. There will be some existing programs you work on that will use one of these date classes. You should be familiar with the basic operations of these date classes. Often you will need to look up reference material on a specific date class for proper syntax and usage. If you are working on a brand new project, I would suggest using the newer date class like LocalDate. It will be easier to use and have all the features you need. LocalDate has features to return part of the date, like get year, get month value, and get day of month. In this test, you will notice that part of the date can be returned. Notice some of the methods available to the LocalDate class. And this test will pass. In this test, you can return the name of a month as a string. The previous test used getMonthValue to return an integer of 10. GetMonth will return the name of the month, October. If we run this test, it will pass. This test will return the day of the week. This test will pass. Another nice feature is the ability to add or subtract from a local date. This test will add one day with the plus day method. The number in parentheses will be the number of days added to the local date variable. If we run this test, it will pass. This test will subtract 15 days, which will make the resulting date go back 1 year. And if we run this test, it will pass. Do a little research or build a few more tests to prove you can add or subtract days, weeks, months, and years from a local date. 2 additional features frequently used with dates is the ability to convert a string to a date and to convert a date to a string. To parse a string value into a local date variable, you need to use the datetime formatter object. In this test, you will see the .ofPattern method where you declare a string value of the pattern you wish to use. The end result is the string variable was used to populate the local date variable. Let's run this test. And it passes. There are over 30 different date and time format options. Some are popular and others are nice to have but not frequently used, like what is the week number of the year, a value from 1 to 52. Here is a list of some common characters used to parse and format dates and time. There are many other date-time conversion characters. If interested, research other formats and example uses. To convert a local date to a string value, again you will use the datetime formatter object to format the output with a defined pattern. This test will output the result with day, month, year. Run this test. And it passes. In this last test, we will output the 3-letter day of the week, the 3-letter month, along with the day, year, hour, minute, and second. We run this test. It will pass. Here's a summary of all the tests we wrote for dates. You should now have an understanding of the date data types, including date and local date. There are several date classes, each with their own features for working with dates and times. You also have an understanding of parsing and formatting dates to strings. There are several other character formats available. Your optional homework assignment is to perform a search for other conversion characters used by local date time variable and create several unit tests proving the string output matches the expected result. In our next lesson, we'll begin a series on collections, starting with the array. Remember, future senior developers, make it work, prove it works, then make it better. Ready? Break!